Hello, sir. I think you're muted.
I am muted. How are you doing?
Good, thank God. Let me just turn on another light over here. It's a little dark. Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank God. How are you, sir?
I'm pretty well. Myself, yeah. How was Shabbat? How was the week?
Shabbat was, as always, almost always, very, very nice. Um, had family over, in-laws over. So it was very nice. Very nice weather. So that was also it's always fun to have some nice weather as you're walking around the streets of the city of Kings.
Mhm.
And my nieces and nephews that come over a lot, and
Yeah.
we'll take walks, and I drive them crazy. I make them take like these deep breaths. I'm like, take it in, kids. The city of prophets. The city. I dance. I play around with it, so they all mock me now. But
Mhm.
it's enjoyable, thank God. So that is going well. My synagogue that I signed up to, they're growing rapidly. They're looking now to like buy. They started this like a year ago, but
Mhm.
they're looking to buy a building now so they could have like an official place. And there's a guy over there that's in charge, like one of the guys that's on the board. He is a very intense individual. He like attacks you with chesed, with good deeds.
Mhm.
Okay, I get it. Another family we can help. Can I just like pray right now? Like, but he's very into his chesed, which is beautiful. So that is thank God going well.
How many people are in the the synagogue?
Um, family, I guess like as far as people, I don't know. It's probably like 250.
250.
Yeah, maybe no. You know what? Maybe a little less. Maybe like 200. Um,
Mhm.
but it's the synagogue that has they have yet whatever. That's for like ownish. I'm not even gonna get into it. So thank God things are going well. Family's well. Kids are doing well.
Mhm.
I had beautiful discussion on Shabbat with my son, um, which was sad and beautiful. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, he had he growing up he had like fluid in his ears. We didn't know for a while. He had some hearing loss. He had some surgeries. Thank God he's okay.
Mhm.
But I was having this conversation with him, and he was speaking so beautifully and so articulate. And he was asking, it was so fun for me to be in that moment. But he
Yeah.
was just asking. The topic we were discussing was the war, and
Mhm.
he's 7.
Yeah.
So he was like asking like a lot of questions, and like really good questions too. So I sort of wanted to stop because I didn't want to get into this topic. On the other hand, I'm like, oh, this is such a beautiful moment where I'm talking to my son.
Yeah.
So, so I guess those are the tensions. Um, so that was also nice. I would say that's it. What about you? How was Shabbat?
Shabbat was good. Yeah. My wife had a birthday, so we
Happy birthday.
yesterday, so we celebrated that. It was nice. Um, and Shabbat itself was pretty nice as well. Um, yeah.
All right. I'm glad to hear.
Mhm.
Um, all right. I'll just say hi to some peeps over here. We have Sandy with us. We have Andrew with us, and we have Upcycle with us. I hope all you guys are doing. I hope all are doing well. You're having a productive week. Okay, so
Oh,
let's get to it. We are on the Asara Nisin.
yeah. So the last one is Nisyonot, the 10 tests that's what we covered last week.
Right. In Abraham, he had these 10 tests, and Right, we spoke about the different tests he had, different trials he had. I was giving an example last time about like we spoke about the trials that Hercules had, right? The famous Hercules trials he had, and like what each one of these trials are supposed to signify. So we're continuing on with our unlike the other Mishnayot we had, which are from specific different rabbis giving us a specific message. Here we have these general collectings of rules of 10 and 7 and 10. So this whole Mishnah, this whole chapter has a lot of these. Okay, so עשרה ניסים נעשו לאבותינו במצרים ועשרה על הים. 10 מכות הביא הקדוש ברוך הוא למצרים במצרים ו10 על הים. No, I think we did this one, no? Yeah, we did this one.
נעשו אותי למצרים ולא שמעו בקול דינן. They tested me 10 times.
And then we got here, correct.
Yeah, okay. I guess the 10 and the 10 got me confused.
Right, exactly. The 10 and the 10 got me confused. 10 ניסים נעשו לאבותינו בבית המקדש. לא הפילה אישה מריח בשר הקודש, ולא הסריח בשר הקודש מעולם, ולא נראה זוב בבית המטבחיים, ולא יראה קרי לכהן גדול ביום הכיפורים, ולא קיבוע גשמים אש של עצי המערכה, ולא ניצחה הרוח את עמוד האש, ולא נמצא פסול בעומר ובשני הלחם ובלחם הפנים. עומדים צפופים ומשתחווים רווחים, ולא הזיק נחש והקרב בירושלים, ולא אמר אדם לחברו, צר לי המקום שאלין בירושלים. Do you want to take the English for us?
Yes. Okay. So 10 miracles were performed for our forefathers in the Holy Temple. No woman have ever miscarried because of the smell of the holy meat. The holy meat never spoiled. Never was a fly seen in the slaughterhouse. Never did the high priest have an accidental seminal discharge on Yom Kippur. The rains did not extinguish the wood fire burning upon the altar. The wind did not prevail over the column of smoke rising from the altar. No disqualifying problem was ever discovered in the Omel offering, the 2 loaves or the showbread. They stood crowded but had ample space in which to prostrate themselves. Never did a snake or scorpion cause injury in Jerusalem. And no man ever said to his fellow, my lodging in Jerusalem is too cramped for me.
So these are the 10 things, the 10 miracles that we had we had at the temple during the time of the temple. May it rise again. And first, to clarify, we're not talking about one individual miracle or that this miracle occurred once. Rather, that these were common during the period of the temple, right? So this was constantly going on. And the temple is, as I think we discussed it before, in some earlier chapter about, the temple itself is a place where we go to atone and to confess and to sacrifice. And these are places that we're transitioning from a state of mundane to a state of like spirituality, and from earthly things to spiritual things. And we were also talking about how specifically in the temple, right, things that we can't do outside the temple, like we can't eat any blood, and we can't sacrifice incense, and we can't have any idol worship, and we don't make ourselves any things like out of gold or silver with regards to like worshiping God. But lo and behold, in the temple, you have the cherubs, right? You have a gold idol there, obviously, in a certain sense. You are lighting incense. You are moving around. There's a lot of blood ceremonies going on, right?
And just sacrifices, all of the sacrifice,
right. So this is, in a certain sense, a recognition in Judaism, and obviously through God, that like, yes, there's something that could allow you to transcend if you drink blood, right? There's something very powerful about those ancient civilizations that would bathe in blood, because there's something to it. We recognize that as well. The question is it oriented properly? Is it done in the right place? Is it happening in the right context? So all those things matter, and that's obviously very, very important to God as well. I mean, ultimately, this goes from God speaking to us at Mount Sinai and the first two commandments, and at that point, it's too much for us to handle, right? And we ask for Moses to do the rest. But there's a sense also where we also see after the golden calf, there's only so much we can handle, and we require a tabernacle and so on and so forth.
The first two are also, and I'm thinking about it, are also very much abstract commandments or pronouncements.
Or miracles, right? So all these miracles right now, in a certain sense, come to represent a moment of tension, but if done properly and if oriented properly, that's where it can be done, right? So that's what's special about the temple, right? We have this 8th day miracle in a 7th day world, right? And that's why it keeps on getting destroyed, because it can't. There's even tension with the fact that the temple's here, right? Even that can't be sustained too long. If we, the Israelites, the nation, and the world are not oriented properly, we can't host such a thing. So, there's like in pregnancy, there's something about the fact that I have the will and my desire is very important, right? We talk about women about we have to be very careful about the moods they're in and at least in ancient times, they believed that if a woman was in bad spirits, that could harm the fetus. I'm sure today, psychologically speaking, there's something to that. I don't know if we're worried about someone having the blues that the baby's going to be depressed, but the idea at that point was there's channeling your will properly. And the concept is that while in the market, you could say a woman could be walking around and she smells horrible, smells, and she gets distracted or gets very, very disturbed, and that affects the baby. Here, it's saying that in the temple, women or people, right, were managed to maintain their proper focus and their proper will. So if things like this happen, they wouldn't have to be worried about completely getting distracted all of a sudden. Right? So we have the meat that they're actually bringing up. So first of all, it wouldn't always be finished that day, but you would only have a day or two to finish it before it starts to smell. And the fact that that's a very heavy workload going on in the temple. There's different stories in the Talmud talking about the heavy workloads they would have. So, they're keeping on bringing in more and more meat, yet we still have this miraculous thing that it's not smelling. But here too, so there's, let's say, the physical element of it, us to believe that there's actually meat over there, it's being used, and miraculously there's no smell. But it's also, again, showing to stress an element that there could be a problem. Well, let's take a step back. To do this ceremony of sacrificing and this whole sequence is quite meticulous. There's a lot of different rules to this. From a biblical criticism point of view, people look at the book of Vayikra of Leviticus, right? That this is really just these are a lot of guidebooks compiled together of how to do things in the temple, right? This is less about God saying to do X or Y to the individual or to the nation of Israel. Rather, these were the guidebooks that you would find inside a temple. I'm just saying that that's an opinion, right? I'm saying that's not my opinion, just throwing that out there for historical context. Either way, here we're saying that on a deeper level, being overly meticulous about in a spiritual practice could end negatively. Right? We know people that take things way too intensely in their spiritual journey, end up shunning people from their family, go way overboard. So the attitude is over here that in the temple, there was a genuine, people had to be meticulous about something spiritual, yet they managed to, these drawbacks that we said could happen are mitigated in a certain sense, because again, it's done properly, the proper environment, the right orientation. So again, this is a place where spirituality could be practiced meticulously while still being protected from being overcome by that feeling.
So I'm trying to track how you got there. So I'm trying to think about the smell and
not the smell. Here it's talking about the smell. Mm-hmm. Well, Sorry, finish your thought. I don't want to distract
Well,
you.
just like the rotten meat becomes rotten, but there is so I'm trying to understand what you were saying in terms of like the meat, or you have the super spiritual place, the Bet Mikdash, the temple is where you engage in all the spiritual rituals, and you
How?
do that in a meticulous way
Right.
through sacrifice with the meat.
But it's more than just the meat, right? The context over here you have to take into
Mm-hmm.
consideration is I'm talking to a Jew during the time of the temple that knows what, or this after the temple that knows what basar kodesh is, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we have this sacred meat. We're already talking about. We know it's a very meticulous process, and
Right.
we're saying that this meat didn't stink. So again, I said on the surface level, there's the miracle that it didn't stink, right? So the candle, the menorah
Mm-hmm.
was lit for 7 days, right?
Yeah.
Great. On another level, we're saying that the stink, the stench, is what could occur if practicing something meticulously from a spiritual perspective and going overboard with it. The
Mm-hmm.
result could end up being stinky meat because you were
You don't pay
focusing.
attention to the material elements, maybe like you separate yourself, so like you
I'll
get
give an
disengaged.
example. I had a cousin of mine
Mm-hmm.
on my mother's side who was going through a journey and was getting closer, finding his way back towards religion.
Mm-hmm.
He decided to go the route of Rav Nachman Breslev, right? The Breslever Rebbe. So he was by us for the Sabbath, and this is Saturday night. And my father wants to drive him back to Jerusalem. He's going to do him give him. So he has to get a bus. And my dad was going to drive him over to the bus depot, basically.
Yeah.
And time is of the essence.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the evening prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And following the evening prayer, we say Havdalah, right? We distinguish between the Sabbath and the rest of the week. What do we do with a candle and some other incense? Either way, we are waiting. But in his new journey of spirituality, he is now going to pray for 2 hours, right? And this is a prayer that usually takes 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So now you could be like, well, Chezi, he's reconnecting to God. And then you'd be like, right. But if he wants to make it to Jerusalem on time and make the bus, you got to be realistic with what's happening right now.
Yeah.
So that's what we sound like. That's a stinky moment. Well, I'm not denying the fact that he might be reaching a new height, but he's doing it in the wrong context, in the wrong place. And this is not the place to be doing that.
Right. Yeah. So I think I'm understanding what you're saying, and the rottenness of the meat is the disengagement from the lower world, from the material. Yeah, you're spending too much time, and then something happens in between that.
Correct. It's because it's meticulous. It's are you? It doesn't like in a certain perspective be like, wow, the guy just spent 15 hours in the temple.
Yeah.
This guy must be very pious and very serious. And then you ask the temple guard, the guy was wandering for 14 hours, like 1 hour, like he was doing stuff. And the next 14, the guy was like walking up there. He was lost. He was yelling, like it wasn't like productive.
Yeah.
It stunk, so to speak. Okay. And we were Velonira Zvuv Bebet Hamid Bachim. So here too, on the analogy again, on the surface level, miraculously, there is no fly in the house, right? If it doesn't stink, then obviously there's also flies are not coming as well. But here too, we're talking about what does that mean that no flies came, right? So they're attracted to uncooked meat, to all the blood, but we're seeing over here that if we're looking for spiritual truth that is from the inside, right? So you're in a place right now where you're going to be very open, right? You're in the temple. And when you're opened, in theory, they say don't be too open-minded because your brain could fall out, right? That classic thing. So here, I'm very open-minded. I'm in the world right now where it's all I'm in the highest spiritual levels, and potentially I could be led to undesirable places, right? Things could be misinterpreted. Think of what happened to the sons of Aaron. Right? Like things got a little too hot and heavy, did not end well for them. Right? So you could say, what if am I going to get these flies? right? Are these going to come inside? And the attitude is no. In the temple, even though you're in this crazy spiritual high right now and you've oriented yourself properly, don't be nervous that there's too much openness. It's still within a context, it's still within certain boundaries. And rest assured, if you orient yourself properly, your prayers will be directed, and your spiritual growth can be achieved.
Interesting. It kind of makes me think of the dichotomy from like the inside and outside. Like the flies coming from the inside, and the rotten meat is from the inside. So, like you said, it's like a distraction or disengagement from within, and a distraction or um, a distraction or an attack from the outside, right? Because you don't want to be too open. I mean, I lived in New York for a long time, so for me, I would think about rats. You don't want to leave the door of the restaurant open or too open because the rats are going to come in from the back door, and then you have a whole mess there. But obviously, yeah,
exactly. I mean, I think that's a very good analogy. The Clown of Babylon. Hello, sir. I hope you're doing well. We're glad to have you here. Haven't seen you around for a while. I hope you and the family are doing well. Velo era keri lakohen gadol b'yom kippurim. So, right, the high priest needs to say super holy, and we're saying that. Well, how is it translated in English?
Accidental seminal discharge.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Wet dreaming over here going on, and we're saying that this didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So first off, the way some interpret that this was avoided was they wouldn't let him sleep, or wait, he wouldn't sleep. Then there's another version is that if he was nodding off, the other priest would make him walk barefoot on the cold floor to stay awake. Fortunately, today he'll just put on a podcast. We don't need to do that anymore.
And I guess what are the stakes? I think I know, but I think it might be worthwhile. Like, why is it so important that this doesn't happen to him on Yom Kippur?
Oh, what do you mean? It makes him unholy.
Very pure, and there is no time to, like, he can't purify him until like the end of the day, right? So
correct. There's a timing essence because of all the sequences of stuff that he needs to do. He also needs to be changing his clothing, going in and out of the Holy of Holies. So we can't be spending that time. However, as we're continuing with our deep dives over here, there's another sense where we're talking about again, which is you are in a place where there's like in specifically the high priest, there's like intense spiritual efforts going on in this day. And when I'm doing that and I'm striving with all my body engages intensely also with me. So here too, again, you could say that the fear would be that this person is in the heightened emotions, heightened levels of ecstasy. And I jest partially with the fact that the Holy of Holies was filled with smoke, right? And we don't know what the exact substances were that was being used over there, right? But I would not be shocked if there was some psychoactive components over there. So having all that going around, right? You could think that could allow for in some cases to someone to reach some sort of even sexual high, in a certain sense, from coming from a proper place. You could even say the idea was that even this didn't happen.
Right. Yeah. This all seems. I mean, I'll keep saying it, but this all seems to me as I'm reading this is really. One way to take this is a lot of metaphors for how to stay oriented, especially like around tefillah. I'm thinking like around prayer, right? Like meditation.
That is the temple. That is the miracle of the temple.
Obviously, yeah. So like, don't let the flies, don't let the thoughts nag at you. Don't, right? The blue dreams. I think in Hebrew, maybe that's what you said. Like in the night. It's kind of like a form of distraction. Like, don't let those things distract you. So, they're unconscious, but if you orient yourself in a certain way, then you might be able to avoid those more often, right? So again, it's orientation, but maybe like more intentional, like from pre-tefillah, pre-prayer. So all these different ways to think about how to stay oriented. So it's interesting.
Well, I think in general that's sort of what we're being. That's like that's the meta miracle.
Yeah.
Right. Which is the fact that there's this place where it itself is the point of orientation. Right. Like all eyes towards Jerusalem. We're going there 3 times a year towards that place. That's where it's at. And you have to think about, First Temple Judaism right now. Obadiah is in the fields, right? Well, not the prophet Obadiah. Joe is in the field and he's doing his thing, right? He's not thinking about the world to come. He's not having theological conversations. That's not what worries him. He's a simple man. That doesn't mean he's not a smart man. That just means that's not the language anyone's talking. He the Spirit of God is among us. That's also why idol worship is prevalent, right? People feel these spirits in the world, and what he needs to think about is the 3 times a year that you're going to come to the house of God is a huge deal, right? They're talking about it for months already. At some point, he yelled at his son, if you talk about it again, we're not going to go. Everyone's excited about going to this trip. And when they're going, right, so you can see like they're revving themselves up. Yeah. And then when they get to this place, right, is the meat going to stink? Is like, how many things could go wrong, right? Like it happens so rarely that I go there, right? I don't even have prayer. Prayer doesn't exist yet. So I'm going to go there, and this is going to be my spiritual charge for the next few months. So you could be sure people are coming over there, like maybe in Israel, when you go on a school trip, they always say you need to bring certain things with you, right? You have to bring a hat. You have to bring 3 liters worth of water. I don't know if you remember this, Ben, right? And you have to bring matzav ruach, right? You have to bring spirit with you. And I would always say, but just bring the right amount, right? You don't want to be left with like, after the trip and you still have like a full day's worth of spirit going on. Cause like you gotta bring it down. So if I'm going to the temple and I'm at like 120, right? So like, how is that going to be, we got to regiment that properly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
moderation, yeah, for sure.
Continuing on with the, analogies over here, the metaphors over here. Velo kibuk shamim esh sheletzei hamaracha. The wind did not prevail over the column of smoke. No, that's the other one. The rains did not extinguish the wood fire burning upon the altar. Okay, so here too, we have fire not, water not putting out fire, which is one level of the miracle. But then again, discussing the emotions we were talking about, emotions, fire, those are, fire symbolizes emotion in a certain way, right? It can heat up. It could, it's beautiful. However, it could be completely encompass you and burn you and take you over. It moves in all different types of ways, right? So there's this feeling over here that your fire, your emotions, right, could be put out in the temple, right? I'm going to come in with like these high expectations, and it's going to rain, or there's going to be a bad wind, and suddenly that's all going to disappear. And the idea is over here that like humans, we have the ability to use in the analogy of water, our cooling logic, right? Could be very emotional. I'd be like, well, just as you think about it rationally for a minute. She just said you look nice. Don't go proposing to her right now. So I got to like chill that out. The attitude is if I'm fueled with and oriented properly with a proper fire, right? Then I don't have to be feared that blending them with my emotions properly. And I'm not gonna put them out, so to speak. Yeah. I'm not gonna extinguish my fire. Hello, Andrew.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
I'm assuming you're washing your hands and not urinating.
Yeah, he's trying to. I don't know if he's trying to put.
Okay.
Yeah, just lost my hand.
I'm like, it's TLC just for like a new level of comfort, everyone right now.
We're coming here.
Okay. I'm in the delivery room right now. I'm just continuing this class. Okay. And moving on to the next one.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. I guess the last thing, and maybe even
Sure.
connected to, make a connection to. I think Jacob was also going through the Bati Legani, the Chabad, the Rebbe's mimer, where he talks about like the ruach shtut, the which maybe can in some way be translated to a desire, like it's like a desire that goes through you, which which again we can think about it as a fire, right? The fire being an emblem of desire, which can be oriented in the right way. It's not something that you only want to put down, like you said, with the rational mind. Obviously, there are kinds of fires that you do want to put out, but some of them you don't. So I guess, yeah, again, like the orientation, the fires of the altar are not things that we want to put out. So those are desires that we want to have in our life and keep them and orient them and have them motivate us towards good things.
So keeping in that same analogy, we go to V'lo nitzcha ruach et amud ha'ashan, right? And the wind didn't disrupt the pillar of smoke. Okay, so here, if we spoke about the fire is the intense passion that we said we didn't want to use our cooling. We didn't want bad logic or rain sort of to get rid of it, and we didn't want our own cooling interior logic to mess with that emotions. But if we're successful in that point, then we're leading towards transformation. Transformation would be what smoke is right now, right? I burnt one thing and I have fire and I have the thing I burnt together and now I created this new thing, right? So this new thing is transforming. However, again, during that point of transformation, I could be, a little wind could blow the smoke completely away. So the attitude is here too, that my transformation will be successful as well. And the wind won't beat the pillar, right? So as long as I'm oriented properly, going, let's say in this case, vertically straight up, the wind won't get in the way of that pillar.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I think though read that you need to, the Kohen transfers the coals from the inside to the outside, right?
With the machzah.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that.
Upcycle. To be honest, as I understand, first of all, please be honest. As I understand, the orientation of Pirkei Avot is related to its focus on ethical teachings and its structure of persisting diverse perspectives on ethical living. So that's true. In generally speaking, and we definitely did that through 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 over here, and specifically in this one, right? We're talking about like Abraham is an example, right, of someone extremely ethical, right? And then we are extrapolating from him what those 10 different trials were and how they stress his ethical behavior and his thought process and God's election of the Israelites. And in this case, we're really talking about the behavior right in the temple. So there's an ethical way to be in the temple, but again, there's certain prerequisites, right? The attitude is like, yeah, you're coming to the temple already. You are already ethical. Now we're just talking about the behavior and what spiritual concerns you would have at the temple.
And again, in order to be ethical in the temple, you need to be. There's some pre-work that you need to do. That is alluded to here.
Much appreciated. Upcycle. Where were we? ולא נמצא פסול בעומר ובשתי הלחם ובלחם הפנים. Right, the omer is a sacrifice we bring. The shtei halechem is something we bring during Shavuos, one of the holidays, and lechem hapanim is the bread, the altar bread that we had, that they were made constantly every day. They were fresh. They would eat them at the end of the day. There was a very specific technique and process how to make them. So they had like master chefs making that specifically all the time. They had to hire to do that. What is it called in English? So I just want to see this. No disqualifying problem was ever discovered in the Omer offering, the 2 loaves of showbread. Or the showbread. Gotcha. Okay, beseder. So we didn't have any issues with this. So here too, these offerings, these korbanot, do not have replacements. As in, if there's an issue with them, there's nothing you could do about it. So obviously we're talking about something that you have to be very, very meticulous about, and emphasizing that, like, if you get it wrong, you might get disqualified. So here too, you could say, okay, now I'm at the temple and you're telling me about the wind and the orientation and the stinking and the flies, all that. I'm really nervous, right? It sounds like I have to have all these miracles happening right now. I might go into this journey, and if I make a mistake, just like these offerings, like the showbread or these kind of things, if I make any mistake, there's no fixing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I said, go ahead.
And this just reminds me another metaphor, I guess, or analogy is just, it reminds me of, I used to do like performance. So like theater and stuff like that. So
really,
this really reminds me of, preparing, like you said, people are preparing themselves to go to the temple. Even like if you're an athlete, like if you're preparing for a soccer game, or again, you're preparing for a show, you really need to do a lot of stuff. And then when you're at the show, especially if it's theater, if it's live, you have to have no blemish. So you never forget any line, like every word, like you've practiced it, and you don't want to miss it. And like when you do it, it's all automatic, obviously. But before that,
you would hope at that point it's all automatic.
Yeah, but again, there's like the no blemish, the making sure that you have no thoughts coming into it. It's very much also like the mindset of an actor going into a show, or an athlete, going into a game, into like a soccer game, and like just being in that moment, being able to react, and without getting any other confusion that you're getting from any other place.
Right. So if you're going on stage, right, little Timothy Charlemagne, right? That's like the guy that everyone likes right now, right? So I'm sure there's many doubts and hesitations as he's going through this, and there's the process itself has many, many challenges, and you could think that, like, I don't want to engage because, like, it's too many risks. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to see the reward at the end of the tunnel. And the attitude is that, like, once you're at the temple, right? See it through. Believe in yourself. Omdim tzufim umishtachavim revachim. They stood crowded, but had ample space in which to. What does it say there? Yeah, prostrate them. In space in which to prostrate themselves. Okay, right. So we have a lot of space over here. So here too. First, there's just very physical things over here.
Yeah,
which is. Generally speaking, the way a human is formed, right? I have my head on top. It's positioned above the other part of my body. And this is the person in control, right? The little chezi inside my brain driving the machine around, and it directs everything. And in a certain case, even my heart follows and the rest of my body follows. And this goes back to the cool logic I generally use to move around in the world. When we bow down, the order is reversed in a certain sense, where my head goes lower than my heart. Right. And here I'm saying that I'm allowing it's symbolizing the submission of my intellect, right, to the thing that I'm worshiping and what I'm sending my emotions to. Right. Yeah. So that's why, just as far as like the two modes that we're doing, and the attitude would be, or the explanation would be that, okay, you just explained to me this beautiful thing, Chazi, of like when I'm bowing down, I'm submitting myself, my intellect, I'm going through this deep place. That is something that I really want in this realm. I don't want to be involving other people in these personal matters that I'm having and these honest conversations, so to speak. Apropos estuary, I'm obviously very different than what we're doing at the temple, but the idea still stands of, can I find this place where I could come with my emotions first, assuming they're oriented properly, and do that with other people. And the miracle was, that physically while they were standing, it might have been that there's a lot of people over there, right? When you're standing upright and it's only this like intellectual conversation you're having. But once you bow down and you allowed yourself to be open to the other people around you and recognizing that you guys are all, allowing yourself and submitting yourself to the same point, right? To God. Then there was room for a a honest conversation and personal matter, so to speak, to be shared with everyone. And there was miraculous room where no one felt that they are being emotionally stifled.
Yeah. And also to take it more literally in a way, kind of reminds me of like in the synagogue that I go to, if in the Chabad, obviously there is like people, there's some regulars, and then there's people that just come by and like visitors, and just people that they show up once in a while. So it's interesting how when there's more regulars, it might be the same kind of crowdness. It's a small space, might be the same kind of crowdness, but when it's more regulars, then when you actually need to bow, or when you need to start doing the Amida, the
silent prayer,
then everybody knows, okay, I'm gonna like I need to like step over here because I need to take the 3 steps, and so everybody knows where to step. And even though it's a little crowded, like it's very easy for people to orient themselves because we kind of know each other. But when there's more regulars, it's maybe not as rhythmic in that way. And the same thing goes for the nigunim, not nigunim, sorry, like just the chanting of certain verses. When it's more regular, people, you can hear the voices, you can hear the songs, they're more kind of like in tune. Everybody's more in tune, as opposed to when it's a group where there is regulars and irregulars and people that just guests, then there might be a little bit more like a voice coming out here and a voice here. So it's interesting to notice those small differences.
So I think that's a very on point analogy because that's actually happening in practice, right? When I take my 3 steps back and other people are doing that, because the attitude is, before I start the silent prayer, it's as if I'm walking in front of a king, right? And that's why I need to step back, step forward to him, like really make sure I'm being allowed to come into his presence. The reason that there isn't an issue and people are fighting like you're stepping on my toe is because everyone recognizes that everyone's here to see the king. So everyone is allowing that space and respect for one another, which is a beautiful, that happens beautifully. Same thing like we just said with the singing. When a synagogue has beautiful singing happening, it doesn't matter that not everyone has a beautiful voice, but everyone is singing in one voice in a certain sense. That is right. So I'm saying that's multiplicity in unity, right? So that's that goes back to the letter Yud, the 10th letter, right? So the multiplicity in a single dot,
right?
And that's what we want to try to find over here, right? So once we all bow down, in theory, we are all creating room for everyone. So there's room for everyone. We're all there, but there's room for everyone. Velo hizik nachash ve'akrav b'Yerushalayim me'olam, right? So no one had an issue dealing with a snake or a scorpion ever. So here, this relates a little to what we said earlier, which is the heel is symbolizing, it's the bottom of. It's what's connected to the earth, right? When kids say today, go touch grass, right? So that's the thing that's always touching the grass.
Can you repeat the last sentence because you were wrong enough for me at least.
Sorry, I was saying that the heel, okay, is there to symbolize that someone that could be very immersed in a spiritual space is still connected to the ground, so to speak, right? Now, there's a fear where if I remain connected to the ground in that space, right, I'm going to neglect the practices I need to take, or I'm not going to be able to do those things because my heel is not letting me elevate myself, right? So the idea here was that people didn't have to be worried about their heel, as in they didn't have to be thinking about earthly things all the time, right? Am I going to get bit? Am I going to get late? Am I going to have a bill? Like these things that hit my heel all the time that drag me back down, that wasn't a concern in Jerusalem when I was there. When I was there, I had no concerns in the world. Having said that, my heel was still on the ground, right? Yeah. So I could still create that balance where I'm not elevating and disappearing into nothingness, but I could also walk calmly knowing that I don't have to be thinking about like how I go back to the material world constantly. So touch grass. ולא אמר אדם לחברו, צר לי המקום שאלין בירושלים. So this is sort of like what we said about the person bowing down. Well, there's an interpretation which is no one had an issue of finding a place to sleep in Jerusalem, right? There was no one had a problem finding an Airbnb, right? Things worked out, so that's great. However, again, this was more about that no one had an issue in Jerusalem during that period where he felt like he didn't have room to sleep, and by to sleep is to rest comfortably, right?
Yeah.
So everyone is in Jerusalem, and everyone felt that their needs were being met, their spiritual needs were being met, and no one felt that like, oh, I could see everyone's having a great time over here, but I'm not in it. So it was
Right.
one big rave.
Everybody was sameach b'chelko. Everybody was good with what they got. Like nobody worries. Like nobody says, you know what? Like I came to the temple, but like this place that I'm staying in is like the faucet is dripping at night, and I hear it, and like nobody.
Correct.
Everybody's like, no, this is great. It's amazing. I'm ready.
I know you're laughing because as you said that, you're like, can Jews ever not complain? And I'm with you. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
This was very idealistic. So this is where we're aspiring to.
Okay, moving on. Number 6, Vav.
We get there.
Another 10.
We spent quite a long time on that Mishnah.
And they're long.
Yeah, they're long.
To be honest, like,
no complaint.
If you look at if I recall, if you look at the interpretations of these, generally speaking, these are actually like quick reads.
Yeah.
Unless you're going into like a deeper reading of it, because it's just like this was good and that was good and this was good and that was good. You're like, okay, great. 10 דברים נבראו בערב שבת בין השמשות.
Oh boy, yeah.
During twilight. ואלו הן פי הארץ, פי הבאר, פי האתון, הקשת והמן והמטה והשמיר, הכתב והמכתב והלוחות. ויש אומרים אף קברו של משה רבינו ואילו של אברהם אבינו, ויש אומרים אף המזיקין ואף צבת בצבת עשויה. Take it away.
Interesting. Okay. 10 things were created at twilight of Shabbat Eve during creation. These are the mouth of the earth that swallowed Korach, the mouth of Miriam's well, the mouth of Bilam's donkey, the rainbow, the manna, Moses' staff, the shamir, the writing, the inscription and the tablets of the Ten Commandments. Some say also the burial place of Moses and the ram of our father Abraham. And some say also the spirits of destruction as well as the original tongues, for tongues are made with tongues.
They couldn't get one more, some say in there, someone else to throw in some other stuff over there. Okay, so things that were created during twilight, this magical time called twilight. There's a lot to discuss over here. I'm trying to think which best way to jump into this because it's quite deep. So I don't think we'll do sort of a scratching of the surface. I will mention
in a lot of context, even in the English, it shares the context a little bit, but yeah.
So first, this goes back to the book of Job, because this is one of the first things we learn about in the Talmud. The first thing in the Talmud is Me'matai Korin Kriyat Shema, right? When do we say the prayer of the Shema, Hear, O Israel? And there's a discussion over there, which is basically, during these moments of twilight, right, when darkness comes and there's a doubt, right? Will day come again? Can good triumph? Right? It's now the absence of light right now. I have to deal with this other essence called darkness. The fears, the doubts start coming in. And that is when we proclaim Shema Yisrael. In a certain sense, this is the tension that Job was dealing with.
Right.
If you recall,
limbo is tough. Like the in-betweens are always tough. Yeah.
Well, his kids party every day.
Yeah.
Every day they go to someone else's house. They're having a party over there. They're having the time of their life. And as far as they're concerned, like they won the game of life. You know what I mean? That's it. They're done. They're the richest. They're the best. They're doing their thing. And Job brings a sacrifice every day, right? Because in case they made a mistake. And in a certain sense, they are in this locked, closed loop right now. And Job feels this tension, which is also akin a little to the meaning crisis, which is we have this wisdom that we're trying to that we have, like, rereading Aristotle or what what Vervaeke's doing. We're trying to reintroduce like this old wisdom again. If this generation could stop partying all the time and recognize that they need this, because now we're doing twilight, right? We're doing this period of transition. You could look at it as Bitcoin, you could look at it as government, you could look at it as meaning crisis, but the idea is we're transitioning right now. Yeah. And Job's frustration is my kids don't get that, and I don't know how to explain that to them. They feel like it's over already. So all I could do is I'm going to constantly on the back end just keep on praying. That's all I know what I could do. And their party is sterile, like I said. On the flip side, the Talmud talks about what we do during times of tension, because we recognize those times of twilight are always going to come, number one. Number two, the party that this discussion is happening in the Talmud is an engagement party. And the attitude is it's also happening in a place with renewal. People will get married. They will have children. Life will continue on. So the reason we have faith to move on is because we have the Shema. When the doubt comes, we know where we want to, we know how to move forward because we have faith in God. But again, that was just like a little tangent just on the twilight idea.
Yeah. Well, where are you getting this commentary on brachot? Because on the Talmud, because I'm just studying the Talmud, just like the Gemara.
If you read inside, it's I think it's either Rashi or Tosafot. They talk about like I believe they talk about where the meal is happening.
Yeah, like the meal, like the Rabban Gamliel, maybe like the Gamliel is like Bet HaMishteh, which is like
correct. But I think one of the commentators said over there that there was like it was at Irusin.
Yeah. Okay.
Just want to read a comment over here. Disrupting the ideal would be be a move from the devil. Doesn't the devil negotiate with God to ruin Job for a bit? Yeah, he doesn't negotiate. I mean, yes, he negotiates, but again, it's all happening under God's jurisdiction. And he tells them that he uses like a schacha, you were a shield for him, basically. And he's not really experiencing life. Remove yourself and let him experience real life, and let's see if he still remains Job.
Yeah, so a lot of what I'm getting from you, from your explanation, is
we didn't jump into it yet, but this was just like Vanish right? This time. There's a few different versions of this time, but like one of them was that, which is like this twilight time, this transition period. Another is that again, this is happening. It's something that's happening sort of a little outside the natural bound, but still within creation. Okay. And that's why it's Vayechal Elohim b'yom hashishi, right? This is happening like at that moment, like while this is happening. So there's a difference between how, let's say, the Rambam, Maimonides, he sees this is, his will is constant, right? God doesn't decide to like add a few more things like later on. It's all about timing, really. As in the splitting of the Red Sea. Okay. That was built into the system, into the matrix, and it was going to split then. It worked out with God's help that the Israelites were there at that time, so it splits at that time. But it's not that it happened specially for them. And the way the Maharal sees this is a little different. He sees that there's like it's not part of nature, but it's part of a godly order. So if there's like a lower order, which would be like, say, a natural order, this is part of like a moral order, or let's say to use the terms of form and matter, right? So the Israelites are considered matter, and the ocean, the sea in this case, would be considered form. So when, according to the Maharal, when the Israelites come in front of the sea, form bends to matter at that point. So it's still happening sort of within a logical system, so to speak, right? It's not purely miraculous. It's just these two different powers are meeting each other, and one is a matter which supersedes how form would react. So I would say that's just like two different readings of how Maharal and Rambam see these miraculous sort of things that were given. I'll just give one more framing, which would be a rationalist and let's say a pragmatist reading of this. So the pragmatist believes that there's more during creation, there's a lot more fluidity going around because you're trying to create something new over here. And that means that different things are mixing together in this phase. So it's the first 6 days of creation. There's no nature, basically. We just have like this mix going on. And then according to like a rationalistic point of view, you would say you would say that here everything's going by rational principles, right? And you can't shift, you can't change anything over here. So this would be like the last day of creation is the day that God rests. And then there's only nature, right? So Bein Hashmashot is the miracles when these days meet between pragmatists and a rationalist, which is, again, the first 6 days are pragmatists right now when we're creating something new. So there's no nature yet. So we have this fluidity we could work with. Kicks in the 8th day, right? That when God is rest. So nothing new is happening right now. There's only nature, and we have to stick by these laws. In the twilight is when we have this wiggle room, this little magic time where things could happen.
Right.
This is a little tongue-in-cheek, but that's why the only time there's a miracle, right? Because God is resting. On the Sabbath, you must rest. The only time you are allowed to not rest on the Sabbath is to do chilul pikuach nefesh, to save someone's life. So the reason God intervenes, so to speak, with miracles, it's only for the betterment, let's say, to save someone's life. And that's the only time he works out of his, he comes out of his rest and acts in the nature world right now.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that was a lot. I don't know if I fully understand it.
It was a lot.
The last bit, I think is easier, but yeah, the fact that 6 days are pragmatic, or like when we're building something, but you're saying there's not necessarily an order yet because it's being built,
right?
And then there's,
but now the way I'm going to use it has to have an order in it.
Right. So
I'm building Lego right now with my son. The colors could be mixed up. Give me this first, there's some sort of order, but I could still play around.
Right. So the order is on Shabbat where you decide, okay, I'm going to use this. I'm going to rest in it. Right. So I'm going to use it for its purpose, which gives it its order. In a way.
And this is also, we're trying to find when do I have room for this miracle, right? Because I either have nothing going on or I have order. And the attitude is in that space, in the twilight, Bein Hashmashot, I could find that space where now I could, again, like I said, outside of nature, but still within creation.
Okay, I think we need a separate stream on this, but yeah, we can do
okay, no problem. I warned that this was going to be more dense.
Yeah, all good.
Okay. And okay, so now let's go through these. What time is it? It's 10 o'clock. Yeah, I guess after this one, we'll stop and we only did 2 this week, but we'll continue later on. I have a stream also with someone in 15 minutes or so. We could wait a few more minutes, but
we can. I mean, if you want to give this its time.
I mean, the time was the beginning. From now on, it's just going to be really. We'll go through it. We could go through it fairly quickly, I think, at this point. Okay, so we have Pia Aretz, the mouth, that opened up for the 8 Korach.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So here too, the earth obviously symbolizes stability and something that we could trust and we could stand on. So this is something that obviously it's something that we need as a constant in our life, right? I don't have a lot of risks dealing with the ground. However, comes Korach, right, and tries to mix spirituality, right? He's trying to mix the Sabbath and the 6th day of creation together, right? We're all holy. He tells Moses, why can't we all be at the same level of hierarchy? And Moses tells him it doesn't work that way, right? The 6 days of creation can't all be the Sabbath. And that's why the reaction to that is the mouth opening up and swallowing him, right? That was an improper mixture of those 2 days. So we have this, again, that would be a certain sense of the natural reaction of Earth to Korach was to open up and swallow him.
Kind of reminds me of the risk of GMO. When you mix stuff that's like unnatural, you don't know what's going to open up and swallow you. But yeah. Anyway, that just what came up in my mind.
I'll accept that. There's some versions where say that was another one of the miracles.
Yeah.
Pia Be'er, right? So this is Miriam's well that miraculously followed them around everywhere. So here too, there's the symbolism of drawing water from a rock, right? So these are contradictions, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you have like a contradiction like this where you're taking something that's dry and hard and then turning it into something that's like a liquid and cool? So here too, this is like I said about the twilight, this is letting you know about these moments of contradiction, these transitions between hard and soft, solid and liquid. And again, like things like this can only be created during this twilight period. By the way, this is also hinting to the what we were talking about, the proper orientation in the temple, right? Where I have these transition periods. And in the temple is a place where miraculously that balance can be reached. Right, I could have fire and water. I could be fire and water could be on me, wind, and my smoke could still be standing tall. Right, so these are also contradictions. But if they're happening properly, then there's room for them.
Right.
Upiha aton, the mouth of the mule, the donkey that spoke for the great prophet Bilam. So aside from like his own personal interactions with the animal, and that's like a whole deep dive on their personal interaction. For us, on a more surface level, it represents the animalistic part of us, right? But that we still know how to express ourselves. So this is the blend of, let's say, the evolution in a certain in a certain sense of like the physical action, right? I could have a body that is very much animalistic, right? But I have a mouth that allows me to evolve that and then be able to take things from the land of ideas into expression, into actually things on the ground, right? So but more in this level, more as far as expression, right? Which animals are more limited in, but we are this unique being. So here it's just used again as an example of the uniqueness of humans.
Yeah.
Pihaton, right? It's also humbling in a certain sense to remind ourselves that we're also very animalistic in the end of the day. Vehakeshet, right? We have the rainbow that was sign for God not to destroy the earth again post flood. I mentioned this as a comment once in your Tanya lesson about afilu b'astara shebetocha astara. That God is always there, even when there's layers of veiling that we don't see him. And even in the wording that we use in the Bible with regards to the sign of the rainbow, it says "Be'ananeha anan," right? Like in the thickness of the cloud. And it's not even clear that Noah or humanity is supposed to see the sign. Rather, it's something that God is supposed to see for himself in a certain sense. And Be'ananeha anan reminded me of like "Bastara shebetocha astara." Right, it's just like that even like if you really, really think it's always darkest before the dawn, so to speak, right? God is always there, always present, and he himself knows, even if we don't see the rainbow, he himself sees that rainbow.
It's a sign for him. Kind of reminds me of the blood on the post. I don't know if it can be connected in some way.
Yeah. Well, that's something
it's a sign for him. It's not on the outside, it's on the inside of the house.
And we physically do it.
Right, mezuzah.
But Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, Rabbi Hirsch, has he looked at the keshet, and others did as well, that this is to show the diversity in the fabric of creation. That's like part of what's miraculous about the world. But in another sense, also specifically at the temple, also where I care about this diversity, right? When everyone comes together to praise God with one accord. it's a promise also that God is giving us, not just that I'm not going to destroy the world because you guys are being nasty, but that even if there's a tremendous amount of diversity and variety that is like stretching the world to its limits in a certain sense, the world still won't be destroyed. So you could argue that we're living in a world today where like I could identify as a cat, right? So like that is like we are playing with the limits of concepts, words, and opinions, but the attitude is that this too, God is not going to destroy the world because of that. That is in a certain sense part of the blessing.
Yeah, Andrew right now is identifying as a corgi. Or a corgi, whatever, however you say that one.
That's a corgi. Where is he?
Yes, sir. How's it going?
Yeah.
It's a corgi.
Yeah.
Vehaman, the manna, right? So this, again, amazing miracle, the manna. Some people see of it that it was some sort of mushroom that they had, right? So there's like, again, like a whole different level, a different route we could go down. But generally here, again, it's emphasizing the miracle about the man that it also tasted any way they wanted, right? Or any way they perceived, that's how it tasted. So this is to show that it's sort of to show where like the subjective human has his place, like with his own personal desires, right? So like we just said a second ago about the diversity of the keshet of the rainbow. Here too, we could see that this shows us that we could diversify. There's different tastes for different people. So that was one of the miracles of the man, which allowed for that kind of expression. And that kind of expression happens in the twilight when things are not yet solidified. That's where I still have room to say, like, you know what, before you close up that burger, put on some extra fries on that. Because that's where I could still give my own input, my own specific desires.
You put fries on your burger?
No, as I said it, that didn't really make sense. You know what I mean?
It's on fries maybe inside your pita, because that's...
You know what? You're judging me right now, and this is my manna safe space. In my manna safe space. Okay. Vehamateh. So this is the staff of Moses, and there's also the staff of Aaron, but let's say the staff of Moses. So obviously it turns into a snake, and it turns into the almond tree. Jonathan Peugeot spoke about how, you know, the snake is chaos, right? It moves around, it's wiggly, and the stick is upright and solid. Mm-hmm. But here too, you are taking like you're infusing life into inanimate objects in a certain sense.
Right,
right?
Again, the transition, moving between
exactly. And that's basically the transition, right? So can you do this? Can you take someone that seemingly is dead, seemingly has no life into him, and fill him with life and vigor, and then allow him to, achieve great heights? Yep. So this is obviously something that we want to. That's what the staff symbolizes. Mm-hmm. There was the other copper snake, Nehushtan, but that gets removed from the temple after a certain period because it led to idol worship, which inevitably. That would have been the case.
Yeah.
So goodbye, Nehushtan. They actually found like in these quarries, like these copper quarries, they found like this. I think it's like 4,000 years old or something. That like this copper snake from like this mold they had basically, and it's like the Canaanites area because the Canaanites were known of being with copper. So the Bible becomes alive. It's always very, very interesting. V'hashamir. Okay, the shamir was this magical worm that could cut through stone and cut through metal. They actually have some sort of worm like that they found recently that could do such things. I don't know at the level that the Torah is talking about, but either way, they needed the shamir to build the temple because you can't use unholy things to build the temple, and metal could become unholy. So how would we cut the stones with something unholy? So they needed the miraculous shamir. This is a fantastic story how King Solomon gets a shamir. He has to fight the king of the demons. I won't get into it right now, but it's a fascinating story. Ashmedai, they get him drunk. King Solomon gets thrown out of his temple. There's body, there's shape shifting. There's a chicken that commits suicide. It gets very intense. All those are actually true facts. So that all happens in this story. But regardless, the shamir was also for on the breastplate, the choshen.
Yeah.
Right? We had the urim, the tumim.
Yeah.
that the high priest
The
wore.
high priest.
And they wrote the names of the tribes on all the stones, or the sapphires and the rubies, and then they would lay the shamir on top of the tracing, right? And he would then go over and laser cut it inside, basically into the stone. He would engrave it inside, and this is also to symbolize, right, that I'm infusing the spirit right into the material world, right? Like I have the stone that I can't be cut into, and I'm taking it through spirit, and I'm carving it in to the actual material world. So the choshen is there to represent the connection to God, and we have this element that allows it to be etched into stone.
Right, and it sounds like this may be the point as well with the next.
And the one after that, probably, yeah, and the luchot. So hachtav v'michtav, right? So the letter is obviously symbolizing like the tools that we humans have, as like how we the letters are the tools of how we express ourselves, and the words are how we preserve these concepts over time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I allow my soul to continue on. I could think of thoughts with these symbols, and then I could put it down into words, and I can maintain these things. Right. So also similar to like what we just said about the shamir, right? The shamir is at a higher level because it's happening from like a spiritual perspective. It's being cut into this spiritual stone. And so I would say that's sort of like bottom up. So it's up, down, and hamichtav is bottom up, right? I write and I express myself, and I could leave these things along over time. Hopefully they could find their way towards expression towards God. Then lastly, we have the luchot, right? So they need no introduction. The famous tablets of Moses, right? So this is the miracle in them, was that the letters stood suspended. They were cut inside from both sides. They were written with white fire, and the idea is that the shape of the letter itself doesn't sustain it. Rather, the meaning of expression in it is what's sustaining it. Right? That's what's so miraculous about it, that they're infused with godly meaning, so they don't need to be held by anything else, by a specific shape. A few little anecdotes on that. On the phylacteries we wear, right, the tefillin, we have the letter shin. So on one side, it looks like this.
3
like
and then 4, yeah.
And on the other side, it's 4.
Yeah.
The reason it's 4 is if you we'll pretend that this is a tablet, and I have the letter shin, and I'm going to laser cut it inside. I'm left with 4 on the other side. Right?
Yeah.
So that's supposed to be like what it would have looked like looking at the letter shin on the tablets. You would have seen it like cut through on the other side, so it would have had one more line to it. There are some that say that, first of all, the tablets definitely looked like little half mountains, right? They were the Talmud talks about them being rectangle. However, there are some that talk about them being these beautiful blue snapirion, like these sapphire-like scrolls. Mm-hmm. And if you could imagine, they're written all the way around. Right. And you would use them sort of to roll them. If you put ink on them and you would roll them on paper, it would write it out for you. But when it's all the way around, it could be seen in different ways. And there's different verses that sort of allude to this, that this is how it looked. There are some traditions that inside the ark, there was these 2 little stands that these 2 little scrolls could go onto, these sapphires could go onto. And some say that is where we still have our the Torah scroll we read. Has these 2 little things on top. That is in memory, in a lost tradition we have of what it looked like. But again, we could get into a whole conversation about that. Moses uses the leftovers of that stone, that sapphire stone, to make his wife the most beautiful ring in the world. That's also a very romantic story. Anyways, V'yesh omrim afa mezikin, right? The mezikin are the demons, the shadim, different stories of how they're created. This is from Adam's first wife, Lilith. Before
you just skipped the tomb of the burial place of Moses in the ram of the father Abraham.
Sorry. V'kvurato shel Moshe. So the burial place of Moses. We don't know where Moses is buried. The reason is because God said, if the Israelites know where Moses is buried, they either will look at a place and turn it into an idol worship center, or they will pray. And because of Moses' merits and Moses' rights, I will have to accept their prayers. And I don't want them to have a get out of jail free card, so I need to hide this body. His soul is too special that I won't be able to deny the prayers associated with him. Right. So he gets hidden. But this also comes to show the tension of the closest thing that Judaism has to like the God-man sort of, right? And that tension is that we don't know where that burial part is, and that shields us from a certain sense of like diving in too deep into that character with regards to revering him as a god, so to speak. Rather, it's, that episode ended, he's in the desert right now, and that's sort of all we need to know about that story. We obviously have him with us, but we don't need to be looking for Moses again. That chapter closed. While he's, having said that, he's still very much Rabbeinu. He's still very much our living rabbi and teacher. Yeah. The ram of Abraham, right? So there too, obviously, this moment of tremendous tension, right? Am I sacrificing my kid or not? Recognizing that if we're faithful, God always presents alternatives or presents us with options that we could serve him in a proper manner. The mazikin, the shadim I was talking about these are creations that are, they're not human. They're not angels. They're like these half-breeds.
Yeah. Right? The Chal talks about it, like how they're like, they're not spiritual and they're not material. They're not like angels. They're different. Yeah.
Right. Some say mazikim because they hurt you. Some say they could actually do some good deeds. Depends how they act. And lastly, we have this tzvat b'tzvat asuya, which are for tongs are made with tongs, right? The original tongs. So this really has to do with the fact that, in a sense, right, this is like the unmoved mover, right? There has to be the first thing that allows us to create, or a chicken and the egg, right? And the sense is it's here to, Joe Rogan talks about this a lot, but like how this represents like the work that humans do that we're trying to constantly repair towards completeness, right? We're always trying to build, make, do, innovate. And the first tongs are sort of, that was one of the things that was made, like the first desire to continue to innovate, right? So that first spark, that first initiative was given by God, which then allows us to keep doing that until we build an AI that replaces us all.
Right. It's like the light, the light that was created at the beginning is also the thing that keeps us going, and it is the purpose of what we're driving towards.
Right. And again, this happened during the twilight, right? During the twilight is the point of transition where I could still build new things, where I could smelt things. Like if we're using like this analogy, right? I'm hammering the metal while it's hot. And while it's hot is the twilight time, right? So that's when it's allowing me to craft those stuff. But it required me, it still required someone to, at the very least, first time, give me those tongs to stick that metal into the furnace.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay, so we only did 2 today, but